What's up, y'all? How y'all doing, man? It's your boy Hit. And I'm sitting here chilling in the car. I don't normally have a setting in the car, but I've had a few days to process the fight and everything. Terrence Crawford fight and the Errol Spence fight. And honestly, I don't watch no analysis or no opinions from anybody else. I took these few days to watch the fight and form my own opinion. I already had my opinion before the fight, 11 days before the fight, and how things were gonna, but my final take on this fight before we move on to the next fight is a few things that I took from the fight, right? One, in the beginning of the fight, when you hear the back and forth about Terrence Crawford and who he fought, like you're discrediting him. You're saying who he fought, as if Terrence Crawford was gifted undisputed champion. He was gifted being an undisputed champion at lightweight. That means he cleaned out the lightweight division, regardless of who it was and who he faced, right? So basically, and then he moved up, right, to welterweight. It can be said for Errol Spence, who has he fought? Because he has not yet cleaned out the welterweight division upon fighting Terrence Crawford. He fought no legendary fighters, right? He didn't even fight all the best guys at welterweight. He didn't fight Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman was a unified champion before he was. Thurman did lose to Pacquiao, but Pacquiao is a legend. Thurman lost to a legend. Thurman only has one loss on his record, and that's to a legend. So in a sense, Keith Thurman's resume is higher than Errol Spence's resume. Now, Errol Spence does have 3 belts. He took one from Shawn Porter. He took one from Kell Brook. And he took one from Ugas. Right? Now, do not get it twisted on how good Ugas is. Ugas beat Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao was training to fight Errol Spence. Errol Spence pulled out the fight. Pacquiao had, 2 weeks to train, 2 weeks, 4 weeks if that, to train for Ugas. Totally different fighter, totally different style. Ugas won a decision. Ugas didn't necessarily whoop Pacquiao, but to get thrown a wrench like that, and you're pretty much like, it was a step-in fight. Ugas was paid a step-in fight, and he won. Like, Ugas, I have to rewatch that fight, but he beat Pacquiao, hands down. He beat Pacquiao, right? So that's where Earl got his belts from. But Ugas was already, 2 losses in, 3 losses in maybe, right? And he's early. Pacquiao has his losses, and he has like over 50-something wins. So when you look at the resume of of Errol Spence, it's like, well, who have you truly really fought? Because this guy cleaned out the lightweight division, then moved up to welterweight, and he has knocked out everybody in welterweight that he's faced. He did not go to the decision against no one. He beat Horn. He beat Benavidez. He beat all them people there. He beat the shit out of Spence. He beat the shit out of Keith. Shawn Porter. And you really gonna ask this guy, like, who have you fought? His resume is better than yours. You just have the belts. You just have the belts. You beat Kell Brook. He whooped the shit out of Kell Brook. You beat Shawn Porter. You went to the distance with Shawn Porter. He beat the shit out of Shawn Porter. And now people are looking at Terrence Crawford and was like, damn. But they should have already saw that. They should have already saw how he fights and everything like that. Now, a couple videos ago, or during the fight, I made a couple posts, made a couple videos explaining what I said before the fight, stuff like that. Now, moving on to the second stage of the fight. Well, the first stage of the fight, but that was the press conference. Now, you said in the press conference also you're going to beat him mentally, physically, damn near spiritually. You're the one with the iron shield and he got the glass shield, all this stuff. Even though you didn't say it, you agreed with it. Now, when we watch the fight, we hear your trainer tell you, you're standing in front of him, you're standing in front of him. Well, if you're going to beat somebody mentally, physically, and spiritually, you're going to have to stand in front of them and do that. But see, that wasn't your game, that wasn't your trainer's game plan, or Mr. James saw that game plan wasn't going to work. And he's whooping your ass. So now you need to change your angles. You need to change. You shoot off the angles, go out the side, and throw your shots, throw your punches. When all along you're the bigger fighter, you should have been fighting off the back foot, but you do not train that way. And not only were you supposedly the bigger fighter, you're supposedly the stronger fighter, and you were not. You were just the bigger fighter. Terrence was the stronger fighter because he pushed you. He pushed him off you every time you stepped in, and I don't know what the game plan was for Errol Spence. I really don't know. Right? But Errol Spence is an Olympic silver medalist. He's this, and that, and the third. He has great pedigree. He has, he's come from a lot. Blah, blah, blah. Now, I've said from the gate, I don't know if his body can hold up because of the accident took years off of Errol Spence, which it came to be true, and it did. But the fight strategy, or the fight itself, you have to look at, okay, when you're boxing and you're a boxer, you have to respect the line of your opponent, right? Terrence Crawford fought that fight with no respect to no line. He was there to literally beat you the fuck up, and that's exactly what he did. Excuse my language. Beat the hell out of Errol Spence. Errol Spence had the respect of the line, but he was going to just walk forward with the respect of the line and try to beat you up, and it didn't work. So when you're respecting the line from the fighter, you're in the southpaw stance, which is going to be this way, right? And he's in the southpaw stance. Errol Spence is a true southpaw. So the way that Terrence Crawford would move and step to his left. So he can stay out of the range, because you don't want to gravitate to the strong hand. So if Terrence Crawford was to step to the right, he would be stepping to the side of the strong hand of Errol Spence. Right? Which is wrong. Errol Spence, by him being I'm going to call it this way. I'm going to say Errol Spence was playing checkers. Terrence Crawford was playing chess at the end of the day. So when my opponent is in a southpaw stance, the way I'm supposed to step is away from the power hand, which is his left hand. You step opposite. But see, Terrence Crawford is not a true unorthodox fighter. He's an orthodox fighter. switching from right to left. So that means when he switches to southpaw stance, his power hand is in the front now. His power hand is in the front. His right hand is to the front. So now you're gravitating away from the weak hand, his weak hand, but fundamentally sound tells you to gravitate away from this hand because he's in the southpaw stance. So that means you're gravitating towards his right hand. This is where the chess, not checkers, game is being played. So when you look at this fight, every knockdown or every hard shot that you see buckle Errol Spence's fucking legs or knocked him to the ground was from a right hook, a right uppercut, whatever that, because that's Terence Crawford's strong hand, and he's unorthodox. So that means Errol Spence is gravitating towards that shit. When the whole fight, he should be slipping to his right, because he's in the unorthodox stance. He should be slipping to his right to throw down his left hand, and then when he pivot out, right? No, excuse me, I take that back. He should not be slipping to his right, because if he slips to his right and this guy's in the unorthodox stance, Terence Crawford's you're slipping to the power side. He's supposed to be slipping to his left, because that means he's not going to get hit by the jab, which is a hard jab because his right hand is here. His right hand's coming this way. You slip this way. You want to invite the left hand from Terence Crawford because that's his left hand. That's his weak hand because it's his backhand. You want to get hit with that because your body will hold up. But see, Errol Spence is trying to fight the fight off fundamentals because that's all he has. And that's where the talent of Bud Crawford overshines fundamentals. Now, the only way fundamentals are overshined by something else, technique and everything, is when Crawford comes in not in great shape. But he was up for this fight. He was in immaculate shape. You know what I'm saying? Because talent never beats fundamentals unless the talent is arrogant, think they got it all. But that was never Bud. Bud is grounded, humble, and everything. So the X's and the O's, Bud has the intelligence over Spence because he knows he's going to gravitate away from the power hand because of the stance that we are in, which means he's going to be closer to the left, my right hand, right? Now, for Spence to fight Bud, he's going to have to always push to the left. So that means he's walking away from the strong right hand in the unorthodox stance, which means you're gravitating towards the backhand. That's what his trainer should have told him. You need to step to your left because he's knocking you out and hitting you. Every hard jab he hitting with, bro, buckled him because he's moving to the right and he's getting closer to the right hand because it's in the unorthodox stance. Every single time he's leaving his head on that side to get hit with that jab, and that's a power jab. It's a right hand. But if he would have been going to the left every single time, that's going to force Bud to go back to his orthodox stance to put his right hand in the travel window. So now he keeps going this way. Now I got to switch my stance so he can gravitate towards my right hand so I can hit him with it. That is the chess match that Errol Spence did not have. When he watched this fight and he goes over this fight and he is not studying the fight that way, it's just going to repeat the same shit. He's going to get his ass beat again. And this is going to be at 154. So, to fight Terence Crawford, that's how you beat him. You're not going to beat him being technically sound fighting off the line because he has no respect for the line. And the reason why he doesn't have respect for the line is because he switches from southpaw to orthodox. So when someone switches southpaw to orthodox, they just trying to beat you up. They trying to hit you with the closest hand. Like if you're running away from when my hand is in the back and you're running away to the left, if I'm in a right orthodox stance and you're going this way every single time, right? That means you're moving away from this hand, right? So now I got to switch in southpaw because you're moving away. So now I want you to go this way. So now when I'm in southpaw and you start moving this way, you moving into this target hand that I've now moved to the front. When it's this way and you're moving away, it's a longer punch. If you move this way, it's a shorter punch. You're moving this way, you're gravitating to the right hand, right? So I have to change my stance or you're going to just beat me technically sound that way. So now I change my stance. I'm able to change my stance and fight this way, right? Now I'm in the southpaw and you're going this way. Now technique's going to tell you, oh, I need to get away from this way, which means you're going to gravitate back this way, away from this. So now I can hit you with this. I can hit you with my strong right hand every single time because it's an unorthodox stance. That's the game that Terence Crawford played. That's the level Terence Crawford is on. He's able to fight 12 rounds southpaw, fight 12 rounds unorthodox, orthodox I should say. He can fight orthodox or southpaw. He is training both ways. He's training both ways. He's doing 24 rounds of sparring in the southpaw and orthodox stance. When you're training all your rounds one way, because that's the right way you're supposed to train, right? You're supposed to train. You don't really see a lot of switch hitters like that. So when you go to fight this man again, because at the end of the day, when you fought all your fighters, they weren't switching from southpaw to orthodox because they can't. Spence can only fight in unorthodox. Porter can only fight in orthodox. He can't fight southpaw. Keith Thurman cannot fight in unorthodox. I don't care how good his feet can be moving in and out, left to right, left to right. When a person is switching left to right on you, southpaw to unorthodox, southpaw to right hand on you, he's trapping you either way because he can punch off either stance. Keith Thurman, I would love to see the fight. It does not. Keith Thurman is not as strong as Errol Spence. And Bud would be, in a sense, if he's too strong for Earl, Bud was too strong for Errol Spence. He's going to be too strong for Thurman. But Bud can use his feet at the same time, too. So that fight, I want to see it because that clears out the welterweight division for actual Bud. Now, Bud did win, and he's the undisputed champion, right? But he didn't necessarily clear out the welterweight division. The guys that were supposed to be the top of the crop of the welterweight division. Who is he missing? He's missing Keith Thurman. See, people didn't want to fight Keith Thurman. Bud didn't want to fight Keith Thurman. There's reasons why Bud didn't want to fight Keith Thurman. Why? I don't really know. I think Errol Spence. Errol Spence, to me, would beat Keith Thurman. He would beat him. Because Keith Thurman will be the smaller fighter, and you're not going to be the smaller fighter trying to fight inside and out and think you're going to fight off the back foot versus the bigger fighter. That's just not going to work. But at the same time, that clears out that clears it out. Boots Ennis is nowhere near ready. Nowhere near ready. No, how the fuck people gonna call for Boots when Boots has not even fought a top 3 welterweight? And he's supposed to fight Bud? If you guys were a promoter for Boots, Boots would fire your ass because that is not a fight nobody wants to see. You got to earn your way to the top. A fight for Boots. Boots needs to fight Ugas. Boots needs to fight a guy. He's gonna have to fight Ugas. If he's stepping past Ugas and thinking he gonna fight Spence, if he can even fight Spence, Spence will look at like, no, I'm not for what? I'm not fighting you. You have not earned that right to fight. So those people who trying to, oh, where can Boots, who should Terrence Crawford fight next? Bro, it's gonna be a Charlo. It shouldn't even be a rematch. Because at the end of the day, if he rematches Earl Spence, that's not for undisputed. That's not for that, that's at 154. That's not even for the belts. So why would he fight Earl Spence in a rematch at 154 when it's for nothing? He doesn't win nothing. You fight a Charlo who has a belt at 154. That's who you fight. So Earl Spence is a 154 fighter. So that means there is no rematch. That is not, I'm not gonna fight. If I'm the undisputed champion at 2 weight classes, and my next fight is gonna be a contender at 154. What? No. My next fight is gonna be a champion. Since I cleaned out 147 and I'm undisputed, I'm going to fight a nigga that got a belt at the next weight class, just like he did when he was undisputed at lightweight. What did he do? He got him a belt. I'm going to fight a Charlo. Whichever Charlo's at 154, because I don't know the twins like that. I don't really care. He's going to fight that guy. Take his straps. Or Earl, see, that's the thing. Why is Earl Spence going to 154 when he can't fight a Charlo? Because Earl Spence, he said a few things in the press conference that kind of made me, that rose eyebrows to me. When the announcer or the guy that's hosting the thing, that's talking, the narrator or whatever he's called, can't think of his name, said, we had a conversation saying that, you want to be undisputed champion. Earl Spence corrected him, said, I don't remember telling you that. I had no money. I wanted to be a champion, not undisputed champion. When the motherfucker said that shit right there, I was like, wait a minute. Wait, huh? Why are you correct? Why are you trying to be politically correct or publicly correct? Like, you want to check this dude on, why these belts I got are just, they're just addition. When you became a unified champion, you knew right then and there's a chance to be undisputed. That's what you're fighting for at the end of the day, to be undisputed, because you're overachieving. But you don't correct the dude and say, I ain't never told you that. I ain't never want to be no undisputed. That's why you're not undisputed right now, because you never, I wouldn't have said that. Because now that says you potentially could lose this fight, and you don't want to be on the hook for saying, I want to fight to be an undisputed champion, and you fucking lose. Well, you lost anyway. You know what I'm saying? So what's the point of moving up to 154 when your dreams have already came true at welterweight when you became IBF champion? Why are you going to 154 for? Why are you climbing up to 154? You climbing at 154 to take all the fucking belts, to be undisputed somewhere, because you failed at welterweight. At the end of the day, what's the point? At the end of the day, me personally, I've said it already. Earl Spence needs to retire. And I don't think Terrence Crawford could go up to 154 and 160. But the way he bullied Earl Spence, who could go up to 154 and 160, I changed my mind. He can. And Derrick James teaches his fighters all the same way to fight. So therefore, when you beat the cash cow of Derrick James's stable, which is Earl Spence Jr., and you made him look the way that you made him look, that is a tailor-made fight for Bud Crawford. And he will beat the shit out of Charlos the exact same fucking way. he will beat the stable of fighters the exact same fucking way. Because they all gonna fight the same fucking way. Because he does not train any different than he trains those fighters. The work rate is gonna be the same way. The way they hit the mitts is gonna be the same way. Because those guys who are less than Errol Spence see Errol Spence, unified champion XYZ. They have to train over him. They have to train just as hard as he trains because he's the main guy. So Anthony Joshua is looking up to, in a sense, Errol Spence. I need to work like how he's working. Do what he's doing because it's successful. That's why all those guys are there. The Ryan Garcias, that's why they're all there. But when that guy loses, oh shit. Did I come to the wrong gym? See, there's one thing that you got to understand. Terrence Crawford has Shakur Stevenson is not the same fighter as Bud. But see, he's going to get pushed because he's like Bud's little bro. Like, you know, Shakur is a true unorthodox fighter, excuse me. He don't fight switch hand. He don't switch. He don't switch like Bud. So he's limited. See, he's doing all this calling out. He's doing all this woofing, selling tickets, because Bud is the cash cow where he trains. So people are going to listen because he's under Bud. So he's using Bud to get fights because the perception is he's coming out of that staple. He's somebody to look out for. But he fights nothing like Bud. Bud can speak highly of him all he wants to. He's supposed to. They're stable mates. But at the same time, he's limited. He's nowhere near on Bud's level. And he'll never be on Bud's level. He'll never be on Bud's level. Errol Spence has a smoking problem. And it's Bud Crawford. He's smoking that Bud Crawford. And he's never going to get away from it. The rematch of that fight needs to be and got to be at 147. Because Errol Spence has to become undisputed champion at welterweight. I do not want to see that fight at 154. It's not even worth fighting for. Because that means you gave up your belts and you ran to a higher weight. See, when I don't want to make excuses. Well, you're making the excuse by running that fight back at 154. You're making the excuse. You're making the perception that the weight was too hard to cut. This, that, and the third. You're making excuses. Yes, I want my rematch. I want it at 147. And I want to become undisputed champion. And it's fights at 147. If a motherfucker talking about fighting at 154, oh, so we're not even fighting for belts no more? You just want to get back at no, I'm good. Go get you a belt and then we can rematch. That's what I would say if I'm in Bud's position. Go get you a belt. Meaning at the same time, Bud has really no reason to be at 147 either. But I don't have to fight. He does not have to fight Earl at 154. He can make Earl go get a belt and take his belt and unify that fight. And that'll be a rematch. That's what I would do. But the analysis of the fight, Bud plays chess, not checkers. Bud is there to beat you the fuck up. And that's the difference between, they want to use Porter did not train enough, right? His daddy said no. His daddy was smart. his daddy pulled his ass out that fight. Because when Bud knocked him down the first time, Bud was there to beat his ass the rest of that fucking fight. And his daddy pulled him out. His daddy looked out for his son. Where Derrick James does not have daddy relations to you, Earl Spence Jr. He let you go out on your shield. He let you get beat the fuck up until the referee stopped the fight. That's the difference between the two. At the end of the day, Porter would have been looking the exact same way if his trainer wasn't his daddy, letting him fight, because you still got a chance. If you fight this way, you might be able to catch him with something and knock him out. At the same time, you're getting your face beat the fuck in. Where Shawn Porter daddy was like, look, it's over with. That's the difference of the fight. That is the difference between the trainers right there. And Porter will never speak against nothing that his dad has to say, because if he allowed him, he would be looking just like Bud was looking, just like Earl Spence was looking. And that's the difference between that fight right there. It wasn't the fact that Porter didn't train. Is you crazy? When the guy smells blood, he smells blood. And he beat the crap out of Earl Spence because Derrick James allowed it to happen. When Derrick James, from the first knockdown, and how you look from the first knockdown, and you got knocked down off a jab, and your knees was not, you had 2 rounds since then that stopped that fight. 2 rounds since, because you would never get your knees back the way that your knees look when you got knocked down. That first knockdown, you didn't even look for bounce in your steps. You were standing there like, and you got hit from a jab. Well, we know it wasn't a jab, but you knew it has to be a jab. And you were never the same from the first knockdown. It was over with. I called it right there, over with. It's over with. When you get knocked down from a jab because he's in the unorthodox stance, that's what he's going to hit you with from the rest of this fight. It's over with. You're not even, the left hand not even knocking you down. It's the front hand. You can't even evade the front hand. Fight over with him when you get, if you get hit with a jab and the jab knocking you down on your ass, and it's not even a left hand, what you still fighting for? You're not even going to taste the left hand. The front hand is beating you up. Should have been stopped. And that's why Porter, it was stopped. When Porter got knocked down with that front jab, boom, it was he used it as an uppercut. But it was the right hand because he was an unorthodox. You're getting hit with that and then it's knocking you down, fight is over with. Fight is over with. Because the only way you get away from the front hand is you got to gravitate to the strong hand, to the left, the backhand. You're not even doing that because you're not taught to do that. You're taught to move away. You're taught to still stay on that front hand, but the front hand beating you up. Fight over with, because you're gonna have to break the rules of engagement and fighting to beat Bud Crawford. You're gonna have to gravitate to the power hand. You're not taught to do that. That's gonna feel weird as shit. So Bud is beating you up. At the end of the day, it is what it is. And you're going to have to break those comfort zones to fight and beat Bud. Bud is going to put you into fighting where you're not supposed to go. You're not supposed to gravitate to the right, to the strong hand. And if you are doing that, he going to switch orthodox stance to you. And that's going to make you gravitate to the right hand, which, oh shit, you still need to gravitate away. Period. Period. You want to get beat up by Bud's left hand. That's the hand you want to get beat up by when you're fighting Bud. Wherever the left hand is at, go to the left hand. Go to the left hand. Go to the left hand. If you're not going to do that, he's going to beat your ass every single time. And that's the only tip in training that I can tell you, and what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. If you don't do it, you ain't going to win. Guarantee you're not going to win, because that's going to put Bud in a fucked up position. But hey, who am I? Who am I? We out of here.